Welcome everyone this afternoon at this celebratory event for the groundbreaking ceremony of Library Hall. As we get started, I want to recognize and welcome some special people here. First of all, Mayor Steve Lakeson, Council members Mike Mendenhall and Kier Scobes, and I'm Council member Stacy Beck. From Westland Construction, we have Nick Sly. He's the Vice President, and Jessica Dahl, pre-construction and estimating. Nolan Kier, Project Manager. Kelly Adams, Superintendent. Chris Houghton and Kyle Houghton. And the architects, Blaylock and Partners, we have Kevin Blaylock and Brian Back. City staff, we have Seth Perrins, Tyler Jacobson, Jared Johnson, Keith Broadhead, Kent Clark, and Scott Ayla. We have General Burton, he's our state representative, and Mike McKell with us as well. He is our senator. We have 4 speakers. We're going to make it short, except Seth, I think he's starting off with 7 years ago, right? Okay. That may be lengthy. We're going to go in the following order. Kent Clark, he is our finance director. Scott Ayla is our library director. Seth Perrins, our city manager, and then we will end with Mayor Steve Lakeson.
It's an honor to represent the finance department. For the past 30 years, I've been working in this fine building, and our finance department has been spread over mostly 3 floors and a bunch of different offices. So we're excited for, as part of this building, the finance department will be, the utility office will be housed. And I'd like to recognize our finance staff. You stand up for 5 seconds. Everybody in our finance and accounting and utilities. Good, dedicated employees of Spanish Fork City, thank you. And we're excited for this building to be a part of it with the library and to be able to serve the citizens of Spanish Fork. Thank you.
Ken, I don't know that I can beat you on time, but likewise, I'd like to invite my library staff and board to stand up. I think for a number of years, countless staff and board members have dreamt of this day of having a new library. And it wouldn't be for them if we didn't have such a wonderful staff and board and direction at the city level. This day wouldn't ever happen. And of course, we can't have a groundbreaking for a library if we don't do a little bit of reading. So indulge me while I read a book. It's called Someone Builds the Dream. It says, all across this great big world, jobs are getting done. By many hands and many lands, it takes much more than one. An architect creates a space she'll draw, redraw, measure, and trace. A woodsy, warm, and peaceful place. But someone works to guide the saws, plan the logs, lead the team. Someone needs to pound the nails. Someone has to build the dream. To engineer a bridge takes skill. Math and science fit the bill, and I-beams ordered from the mill. But someone works to mine the ore, smelt the iron, pour the beam. Someone needs to weld the steel. Someone has to build the dream. An artist makes a stunning plan, a masterpiece from mind to hand, a fountain both unique and grand. But someone works to dig the trench, lay the drains, solder seams. Someone has to plumb the pipes. Someone has to build the dream. A scientist earns a degree in physics ecology. He aims toward cleaner energy. But someone works to tighten bolts, steer the crane, drive machines. Someone needs to raise the tower. Someone has to build the dream. Park designers sketch with pride amusements and amazing rides, and sights to keep you mystified. But someone works to run the wires, light the lights, make them gleam. Someone needs to bury cables. Someone has to build the dream. An author thought up something new. The illustrator planned and drew this book to make this book for kids and adults like you. Someone worked to set the text, run the press, load the reams. Someone had to make this book someone had to build this dream. All across this great big world, there's lots of work to do. It takes a team to build a dream, a skilled, hardworking crew. So when you see a bicycle, a playground, house, library, or shoe, remember all the someones who helped make a dream come true. We are so excited today to pass the baton from a wonderful group that helped build this dream conceptually, and now to the crew that will build it physically. And we anxiously await the day as library staff that baton will be passed back to us, in which we can help build those dreams for each woman, man, and child that enters into that wonderful building. Thank you for being a part of it and for your support of the library and for being here today.
Thank you, Scott. I love that he was able to convey that imagery through a book. It seems like books have always had the ability to transport us to a different place. Sometimes books make us laugh. Sometimes they make us cry. Sometimes books teach us things that we didn't know or remind us of things that we once knew. But always it seems a book takes us to some other place. There's a world that seems to open up. And maybe that's why we as people have loved reading ever since reading became a thing, maybe a couple thousand years ago. We love to read. As I think about the value of reading, I have a mental picture, a mental image that always comes to mind. As a young boy in the summers, my mom would often read to us, and she would gather us in the mid-morning around 11:30. I have no idea why this time. Maybe it was because it was after we did chores and right before we disappeared for 16 hours. But she would gather us together, and one summer in particular, I remember she started reading to us the book, The Secret Garden. And as a young boy, that was the last book I wanted to read or have read to me. I don't want to learn about gardening. But I learned as a young boy to see the world through the eyes of this young man in a wheelchair, which taught me to see the world differently than I did at that time in my life. I ended up loving the story because of what it taught me and the places that it took me. And honestly, it changed me. When, as a young father, my wife and I, as young parents with young children, we started reading to our children like often we are encouraged to do. And I think much of what we love about our family today started when we'd gather the children together and we would read, sometimes in the hallway, sometimes in a bedroom, sometimes in the living room, wherever we were, and we would read. But this gathering the kids together, my mom gathering us together, that seemed to be a point where we would start to learn and experience something new. And so I think it's quite amazing that we're sitting in this space today with Library Hall, that this will become a place of gathering. And it has been a place of gathering for a long time. You see, this used to be a school, that used to be a playground, this used to be a church where people would gather to learn, gather to play, gather to worship. And so gathering has been what has been happening in this spot for many, many years. And as we open Library Hall as a community, we will continue to gather. And great things will happen, just like have happened in the past. We'll gather together to learn in the library, to be transported to new places. We'll gather together to transact the city's business, whether it is literally in the finance office where checks are cashed and bills are paid, or in a city council meeting, or in a planning commission meeting, or in a new multi-purpose space where we can gather together to have fun and learn something new or do something new. This will become a gathering place for all of the community. And it will be a place where Spanish Fork, as we already know, is a great town, a great place where we live. But one more reason why it's a great place we call home, and it isn't just a town, but it's our community. Because we'll gather here today. And as Scott said just a few moments ago, we thank everyone for the part they have played, from years of creating this great community to the last several years designing this space, to the next 2 years as it's constructed, and then beyond, creating a place for our community. Thank you.
tell you, this is great to be able to be here today to see a vision that has come to pass over the years. There's a lot of people are grateful to see this new library be built. It's pretty special. The old library over here was built in 1965, and before that was built there was a building there. It was called City Hall. That was built in 1874, and it was one of the first brick buildings in Spanish Fork. So it stood for a long time, and a lot of activities happened there, that building. It was not only the government building where they had city meetings, it was also a social hall, a dance hall, a place where people would gather, and it was also the city jail. So it took care of a lot of things there. So they tore that down and built the brand new building back there in 1965, and it was one of the premier buildings of Spanish Fork at that time. I remember in high school in the early 70s, my friends and I would go to the library, and we'd go there quite often. I don't know if we ever opened a book, but we'd go there because that's where you could meet girls. And so we spent a lot of time there and got thrown out a few times, but we kept coming back. So it was kind of a neat thing. So when we were discussing where should the library be, you know, there's a few options that happened. One was down by Volunteer Park on Main Street there. That was one site that was discussed. The other one was down by the city police station, the Justice Center. But I was glad that we landed on this spot because when the church became available, I was pretty excited. Now that church was a church that I used to go to as a kid. That was our stake center. And so I remember going to a lot of meetings there in this building that was sitting right here. But what was more important, it had a full-size basketball court with bleachers. And so I remember as a little kid, I would sit up in the bleachers as my older brothers were playing basketball, and I would have a scorebook there, and I'd keep score. And then at timeouts and halftime, I'd take my ball, I'd run down, and I'd shoot, and then I'd run back up and keep the score. And then when I was old enough to play in the leagues there, I was quite a legend in my own mind there. I was good. And a lot of people could know that. So, but to me, I was glad that this spot was picked because to me, a library is kind of the heart of a city. And the heart of the city needs to be in the center of the city. You can't get much better than being on Center and Main. And this is where it needs to be. And I'm glad that this came available for us, that we could be able to build here and have our library here as it's mentioned. Part of it will be part of the finance for the city. There'll be a city chambers for the city council meetings. There'll be a place where we can all come and gather, we can learn, and just feel at peace here. This is awesome for an opportunity to be right here. So I would just like to thank all those who are on the library committee for all their input. I'm grateful for the architects that were able to take that input and put it into a design, and I'm really grateful for the contractor that's going to build this building. By trade, I'm a general contractor. I'm a fourth generation builder, and I've had the opportunity to build a lot of buildings and participate in a lot of buildings here in Spanish Fork. In fact, I remember I would drive down Main Street and my kids, I'd turn to them, I said, I built that building, I worked on that building, I built that building, and they get tired of me doing it. But I took pride in what I built, and these contractors will take pride in what they build here. We are trying to always improve the quality of life we have here in Spanish Fork. And this will be another building to that end. And it'll go along with our motto here of Home of Pride and Progress. That's what we are, and that's what we do. So I want to thank all those who were involved in this day happening today, and we'll enjoy this for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we get the shovels out, I just wanted to extend a quick invitation maybe to Kevin. Would you want to come up and say anything about the architect end of this building? Or Brian, either one. And then Nick, I am going to ask you to maybe come up following Kevin. Come on up. Maybe just talk a little bit about the timeline construction and some of the recent surprises we've had. How's that? Okay. Thanks, Kevin.
This has been a process that we've been involved with for, 2.5 years or something now. It's been a bit. We started with some community outreach in that very building right across the street that the mayor referenced. So we got to know a little bit about the heart and soul that makes up Spanish Fork City. We're super proud of library projects. In particular, they do so much to build and grow communities. We're excited and honored to be a part of the Spanish Fork community in that regard. A number of people were already mentioned. I just want to thank the team that was involved with this project. Brian Backey, my associate, was largely responsible for the design and the execution, but there's a whole host of people back in our office. In addition, Scott with the city, the library staff, Kent with finance and utilities, Seth, Tyler, Jared, Keith, who we kind of refer to as the Iron Man now because of all of his, he's not here in a hospital gown, so that's a step in the right direction. And then I would be remiss if I didn't also recognize Pam Jackson. I hope Pam is here at some point. It could be great to see her. But she was provided some great vision early on in the project as well. Thank you. I'm anxious to see the dirt get turned. So I will turn it over to Nick.
I think we're anxious to get the dirt turning too. No, this is awesome. We're couldn't be more excited to get this started. Spent a lot of time right here. In fact, Dr. Brockbank, my good friend's grandpa, his house was right there, and spent a lot of years with my friend going over to his house and hanging out, and so a lot of good memories just right here on this corner. But we sure are excited. We really couldn't be more grateful for the team we were part of. This building is going to be absolutely beautiful. Architects and owners did a fantastic job trying to think of what the citizens would want and trying to envision that and put it in drawings. We're up to the challenge to kind of bring that to fruition. There has been a few challenges. As everybody's kind of aware, it's a pretty volatile market out there, which is surprising given what we've just come out of with COVID-19. But a few big hiccups that we're dealing with right now. Steel is a major problem. It's going to have a pretty good delay on our project. As we get started, we'll get out here and get the concrete going, the putting foundation, the slab, and put some of the steel. But the joist and deck for this project has a pretty big delay. So as you're driving by and you're seeing and things aren't moving as fast, you kind of have an understanding of why. We have pretty good contacts with our subcontractor suppliers and feel like that will hopefully be able to bump up some of that timeline, but it is a challenge just given our current climate. But again, we're super excited. We can't wait to get things started. Can't wait for you guys all to see the final finished product, and we're grateful to be a part of the team. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin and Nick. Just to kind of give everyone a little bit of a timeline, with the steel delay, this will push the ribbon cutting date most likely to spring 2023. So this will take a little bit longer, but we are super excited and we are ready to get these shovels out and the hard hats on and turn some dirt. That we're going to go in a couple different categories of people coming up. So the first group will be everyone right here behind me. Make sure we have Keith and Tyler. Are you guys back there? Okay. Yeah, come up in this first group. The second group will be the current library board members and the library staff. The third group will be the remaining library staff. The fourth group, finance, and then the public will be invited to come up afterwards. So everyone, come on up, go around, get your shovels and hard hats, and we'll get this going. One, two, three. Okay, finance office, are you ready? 1, 2, 3. We again sure appreciate you all coming out today. If anyone else would like to come up and turn some dirt and take some photos, feel free. Thank you.